Welcome to the 517 In Your Business podcast. Here's your host, Mary Gaida.
We're back today with Eric Hanna, employee benefits consultant with Risk Strategies. Eric has spent 20 years, 2 decades in healthcare from various seats at the table. Healthcare administrator, business leader, now in the consultant role. You help businesses here in Lansing optimize their employee benefits. That's quite a job. We all need you, especially right now. Welcome, Eric.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a fun time of year, in our business. This is there's a lot of opportunity to connect with people, and I love this sort of consultative part of my business. So one note I'll kind of add, it's been a little while, but if you remember, we both agreed that the Lions would win more than 10 and a half games.
Yeah.
We're about the halfway spot. They're on pace.
They're on
Still believe? You
pace.
still feeling good?
I still believe.
Same.
Well, let's talk about the topic today, open enrollment. And I would love to get any experiences from you. I know for me, it's always a confusing time. And I do tend to shut down a little bit because I'm worried that I don't understand something or I'm checking the wrong box. And it's scary. And so I put it off until the last second. I think you could really be helpful on this topic today.
Yeah, that's, we probably have had the same last week and a half and similar to a lot of other employees of businesses with January 1 renewals, it's open enrollment season. And I just went through mine last week. And while I appreciate that, my employer has a very broad offering, with 20 or so options, it's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot. And then you layer in technology and process and to your point, sometimes it can you just want to kind of check through the boxes and get it done and move on to the next. And that reminds me of a little story, a little off topic, but I used to at one point participate in triathlons, and I had a coach that would help me work out what I wanted my performance to be. And to be clear, it was just about my own performance. I was not competitive. And I would go to him and say, I don't feel like I'm getting quite where I want to go. And so he'd look back at my training history and he'd have all kinds of data and stuff and heart rate and so. And he always had the same piece of feedback when he'd go back and look. And it was, Eric, you need to slow down. Going too fast. You need to give yourself the breaks. You need to take your time and you'll get further down the tracks than just going hammer down the whole way through it and trying to just get through it because it's uncomfortable.
Right.
And I think that's a decent analogy for what we're talking about here and how maybe today we can give a couple little tips and maybe a couple hacks to help people kind of manage that process, because it can be a lot. And it's an area that most people are a little uncomfortable, because it's just something they're not living in day to day. And that's, the insurance business. So
Right.
I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, so am I. So before we get into any of your tips, though, can you describe what does open enrollment really mean and why employers have to go through this process and then go through it again and again?
Yeah, I appreciate that context. So employers have contracts with insurance companies to offer these benefits to us as employees. And the contracts generally are 1 year. Occasionally you have multi-year contracts, but generally they're year to year. And each of those years, the price renews. Sometimes the laws changed. Sometimes, what those insurance companies offer slightly changed. So those price changes, the plan changes, and then maybe an employer, wants to have the option to change its strategy, right? And so it gives a good opportunity for employers to kind of pause and reset and make sure they're on the right strategy. They also have plan documents. And Section 125 dictates what employee eligibility and puts rules around when employees can enroll. And so most commonly, that's one time a year for employees or participants to set that financial path. And I would think about benefits about part of their financial path for benefits-related insurance product. Now there are a few exceptions to that annual renewal process, but basically that's your one time to make those elections, and then you're locked into that path. But there are qualifying life events that open the door to make changes throughout the year. And those generally relate to impacts to household changes. So birth of a child, marriage, divorce, things like that.
Loss of a spouse.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Now there's another one that a lot of people may not be aware of, which is if it's a two working household and spouse A has their enrollment effective January 1 and spouse B has their enrollment effective, let's say March 1,
Mm-hmm.
that second enrollment period does open the door for everybody to reevaluate what they've elected. So if you're concerned about, well, my open enrollment's right now, but my spouse is in the spring, what does that mean? Well, it opens the door on both of those fronts. So that's one to keep in mind. But employers have a pretty well-defined and repeated open enrollment process. Maybe that includes meetings, videos, education materials, benefit guides, and now we're moving into that tech space with decision support, AI, and other enrollment tools.
When an employee first checks the portals and opens the benefits guide, what's the starting point?
Most employees are immediately focused on the medical plan, right? That's usually the place where I call it the big three that most employees are sort of zeroed in on, which is what's my deductible on the medical plan, what's coming out of my paycheck, and is my doctor in the network.
Right.
Those are the big three. And that's usually where most people are pretty zeroed in. Now, the benefit offering may also include things like ancillary benefits like dental, vision, life, and disability, or even supplemental benefits like accident, hospital indemnity, critical illness. And like I mentioned before, this is setting the financial plan for the employee's household for the next year. So that really leads to tip number one, which is when this information comes out, review it early, get a quick scan on what's available, but hold on decisions. Like just because you come to medical benefit first in the guide, like hold the decision, go all the way through. Then set that information aside, gather the past year or two's out-of-pocket expenses, and make this a household discussion. So you can take stock of what you anticipate in cost for the next year. Maybe it's medication, surgeries, childbirth, orthodontics, cavities, eyeglasses, it keeps going on and on.
Right.
But you might find that needs have changed from the previous year, which might inform those decisions. So review it, pause, then maybe do a little homework.
So gathering the history, now we've put together what sort of sounds like a budget of sorts. So is enrolling the next thing you work toward?
Yeah, at this point, we're close, very close to the enrollment part. So there's probably a part 1A and a part 1B. Part 1B really goes back into preparation. And I would say lean into those available tools that the employer is providing to help now, get familiar with what the product offerings are. So there's, like I said, technology tools, other materials, education. I'd encourage everybody to go to the enrollment meetings. It may seem like it's, similar to the previous year, but maybe circumstances have changed. View any videos, read the guides front to back, and ask questions. The other, little caveat here is engage others in the household. Many employers are supportive of other household members engaging in the meeting. So bring everyone with a stake to the party. Really take advantage of this opportunity. It may be worth that time investment.
I really like how you phrased it earlier about just sort of slowing down and taking your time as we look into all these employee benefits. It's just the smartest thing I've heard today. Just slow down. You don't have to rush through this.
That's right. And, I think to your point earlier, it's not a comfortable space for many of us. And so we wait till the last minute and then all of a sudden we might be stuck. So that early review is kind of critical to get the thought process going and gives you that time to take the pressure off a little bit. And these are complicated topics, insurance can be frustrating and a little challenging to wrap our heads around, and it's often a pretty short amount of time, so we don't want to condense it on ourselves at the same time.
Right.
But now I think at this point we're really ready to enroll. So tip number 3.
Okay.
There might be even one more caveat here, is first evaluate that medical plan benefit. Use that information, that education that we've gathered in the first couple steps. And take a look at, are there multiple plans available? Now, a lot of employers now have 2 or more medical plans. How do those differ? How are they the same? Does the other household member have a benefit available through their employer? Maybe compare and contrast those. What are those anticipated out-of-pocket costs? Premium contributions from the paycheck, like I mentioned before, versus plan design, deductibles and out-of-pocket maxes. And again, you're layering in what you think those upcoming procedures and prescriptions are. So elect the medical, then set the enrollment aside for a period of time, take a little break, come back, refreshed, clean set of, set of eyes, and work through the remaining benefits available.
Yeah, great advice. And I like working with a spouse too, because it might be well, don't you remember this is the year you're having knee surgery, or the little things that you're not thinking of, and really taking your time is really important. I think this should be a video that goes out with everyone's open enrollment email that they get.
I
Every
love
year.
it.
Like,
Love it.
slow down,
Yes.
everyone. So,
Uh-huh.
we have talked, Eric, in previous episodes about how individuals can be their own advocate and how important that is. And employers can play offense. And this is all sounding like it's empowering the employee to own their decisions, which is great.
Yeah, that's a great summary. I think you nailed it. I mean, we all have the opportunity to take our own responsibility, play our own offense, to your point, making sure we know that, if one of the children in the household have orthodontics coming up, maybe one person didn't
Mm,
remember it, but if we, communicate and connect on those things, maybe we make the best informed decision possible. So, those I think are the best three big tips, I think, at this stage, but I do have a couple hacks if you like
oh,
hacks.
yes. Love all the hacks.
All right, well, here's a couple hacks.
Okay.
Hack number one, take advantage of any pre-tax benefits available. And this does go back to that education piece and understanding where those pre-tax benefits are.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a little bit alphabet soup here. So again, like slowing down on the education side. But there are health savings accounts, which have pre-tax benefits. Those are associated with a certain type of medical plan. There are flexible spending accounts, commonly FSAs. There's two or three versions. There's dependent care, there's limited purpose, and there's health, each of them with their own budget or bucket and limitations. So it's important to understand those. Quick, just sort of side story. When my daughters were of age where they were getting orthodontics, our dental plan didn't have an orthodontic benefit, but we used the flex spending account to set aside pre-tax dollars, and that's what we use to pay for their orthodontics because that's a qualifying expense. So just those kind of little hacks can really go a long way. And you want to just remember what's out of your paycheck pre-tax. It also decreases your own tax burden along the way. So take advantage of those pre-tax benefits.
So this kind of goes back to sort of planning that budget, planning vacations. Now you've also got to plan for the health care. And whether it's going to be covered or you need that flex spending, you really have to sit down and talk. You're really you're drilling this into me, and I appreciate it because again, it's something we tend to just skip over and don't think about.
And you can write this stuff down, or
Yeah.
if you're an Excel person, create some Excel spreadsheets, whatever helps kind of plan that out in a way that's very visible to everybody involved.
Right.
So that leads us to hack number two. And if an individual or a household member has recurring or known chronic conditions, medications, or other anticipated circumstances, look into any related special programs within the medical plan. So most medical plans have point solutions and add-ons to aid in those situations. So common examples might be cancer support, or diabetes management programs, or advocacy and navigation services, or nurse lines, or more importantly, right now, or mail order and especially prescription drug programs. These can improve the individual's experience because you get the support of the plan, and in many cases, substantially lower the cost.
Yes, we have found that recently from our own experience. And it's amazing if you'll just take the time, how much lower that cost can be. So again, it's back to being our own advocate, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite phrase. Yeah, using that one more and more.
Yeah. So hack number three.
Yep, hack number three, and this one's going to get in the weeds a little, so kind of hang with me on it.
Okay.
Some employers offer supplemental voluntary benefits. Those might include plans like accident, critical illness, hospital indemnities, and most people might associate these with the commercials with the duck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's other carriers that provide these, but these are typically voluntary benefits, which means that the employee can opt in and they pay 100% of the premium. Those products pay cash to the insured when they experience a covered event. So if someone owns an accident policy and they break their arm, there's a cash payout for that situation, right? Now the hack is these plans often have a wellness or preventative care payable benefit, particularly in critical illness and accident. And those benefits can range from $50 to $250. So if the individual commonly just gets preventative screenings as a matter of habit, colonoscopies, mammograms, lab work, physicals, they become eligible for that cash benefit. So typically that wellness benefit is more and greater than the cost of the plan itself.
Right.
So it's a win-win-win. The person gets their screenings, which are already free under their medical plan, gets the cash benefit from the supplemental policy. And if then there is an unanticipated accident, then they have the cash benefit to pay those out-of-pocket costs that aren't covered by the medical plan.
So it just, again, it goes back to be your own advocate, make those self-care appointments just to keep up on your health, and then you'll have more benefit in return.
Right. And in this case, you can get what amounts to being almost like a free, cash benefit plan in the background.
Right. It makes so much sense to me. So then what happens after enrollment?
From there, the employer and their broker partners work with the carriers to enroll. And I think there's an opportunity for the individual to also close the loop. So once available, create any portal or member accounts, opt into communication from the carrier partners, the brokers, the employers. Set yourself up to stay aware of what's available throughout the year, because it's easy when we're looking at this in a very condensed amount of time to kind of forget about some of the details.
Right.
And so those will serve as reminders throughout the year. Here's
a question I have for you as well, Eric. I have terrific benefits where I work. My husband does as well. My insurance will cover his and vice versa. Is it wise to consider taking advantage of both?
Oh, that's like a 2.0 question. Like you're like taking it to the next level. I love your thought process here. So more and more, I'm seeing employers put more of their contributions in the employee-only bucket, and then the dependents are a little more on the responsibility of the household. So as a result, I am seeing more and more households elect separately because it becomes just a more favorable situation, because the week or the paycheck to paycheck contributions are better both being enrolled as individuals than they are with two people being enrolled in sounds like this case, being under one policy. But it does go back to looking at what do the contribution structures look like from employer A with, in your case, your employer versus your spouse's employer and what their contributions are. But yeah, it is not uncommon on an increasing level for two household members to split their enrollment with each, relative employer.
Right. On the flip side, I feel like employers would appreciate that as well, because it's less strain on them, because people don't realize how expensive healthcare is on the employer.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, I think we've talked before, data just came out that a family plan is averaging about $27,000 in premium a year. So if the employer can spread that, out a little bit more, then certainly is advantageous to all parties versus it being kind of bucketed together. But again, at that point, the employee really is empowered to look at what their best, solution is. So I encourage anybody listening to kind of take their time, like we've talked about, and do the homework and give yourself the breaks and sort of grace to make that decision thoughtfully.
So any closing thoughts from you, Eric?
I think we've covered it. Great job. I love the questions. If anybody wants more information, they're free to, reach out to you or check me out on LinkedIn. I'm posting information on this. This is kind of the hottest topic right now is open enrollment, and they can message me through LinkedIn as well if they have direct questions. So happy to help anytime.
Well, thank you so much, and looking forward to our next conversation on In Your Business.
Thanks for listening to the 517 In Your Business podcast. Get to know local businesses better by reading 517 Business Magazine. Get your subscription at 517mag.com/subscribe.